Want to do it? No? Okay. Elizabeth and I call the Halsey City Council meeting of March 14th, 2023 to order at 7 p.m. Nice to stay. Well done. Thank you. Okay. Hillary, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Lockenberg,
Here.
Councilor Isom. Here. Councilor Lacoste,
Here.
Council President Lorenzen. Councilor McMillan.
Here.
Councilor Romer,
Here.
Councilor Strauss.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. And to the republic for which it stands. Indivisible with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank each of you for your time to attend tonight. All of you. It's awesome. We appreciate your patience with this format. We're doing some remote as well. Any guests who are physically present need to sign a meeting sign-in sheet at one of the doors. And to cut down on background noise and feedback, remote attendees should mute themselves while not speaking. Members of the public are welcome to unmute themselves to speak during the citizen comments. As Council-elect Lorenzen is unable to be here tonight, his oath ceremony will be postponed. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does any councilor wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey approve the business items and the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the financial reports. Are there any questions, concerns, or discussion? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey approve the February 2023 financial reports and journal entries as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is agenda adjustments. Are there any adjustments, Hillary?
Yes, for council's permission, I'd like to move the Highway 99 project report. Appointing the budget committee members and Sweet Home Sanitation up under delegations.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is delegation. First, we have a special guest here. Or if I were a mayor contest, Elizabeth Brubaker. Elizabeth, would you like to come explain your winning poster to the council, which is on the?
Do I have to go there?
You don't have to, as long as you can simply can hear you.
So my first one is like I see a lot of stray cats in our city, and I try to help them a lot. They get scared, and I'd want to build a shelter for them because sometimes they're really cold and hungry, and they have to kill other people. And the second one is, you know, that like building,
Say again?
the bird down one. We could make that into a hospital or a factory or a library. And the best one is for like people who are homeless but poor, because sometimes they don't have to worry about food. And it would be great if they were the best that people could win. I like the trees in the field because there's lots of factories and would get more oxygen. And people could walk in the forest and could build a park in the forest. And the farmers market is because whenever I live in the market, there's not much berries and like fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
And we could have a farmers market there. Like we built the market into a farmers market now. great. And the fields filled with like berries and vegetables would be for the farmers market. They could buy some vegetables. And I would notice that there's not that much money there. And I love meat. There are lots of cracks in the roads, so I would fix that too. And that's it. I don't want to talk about the last one.
Okay, that's fine. I gotta say, all of them were really, really good, but yours, you could tell for sure that you are a very caring individual. You worry about people and animals and our city. That's an important thing. I appreciate that. Thank you. And with that, if you come up here, I have something for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Lily. This is the first year we've done this, and it's been what? 3 or 4 years we've been trying to get it done and finally got it done. So hopefully this will become a continued thing. And next, moving on, is the Sheriff's Department. We have you here.
I haven't seen a city council meeting in Halsey this busy.
I know, right? It's great.
So we've been doing really good with property crime. Until last month. So. We'll talk about some stuff, but the small town of Halsey, right, we haven't had a lot of issues, but with the cold weather and whatnot, people warm their vehicles up before they go to work to de-ice them or get the snow off or whatever. So last month, we actually had 2 vehicles stolen in Halsey. They were both recovered, which is good. Probably occurred the same night. I'm guessing they just kind of pick which vehicle they want to drive. One we recovered in Halsey, they just drove it a few blocks. The other vehicle we recovered in Portland with the help of the Portland Police Department. So, yeah, lock your doors. And then one thing that kind of caught my attention, sad and frustrating at the same time, page 1, a deputy just on routine patrol found a female who obviously needed some assistance, intoxicated, been obviously in a domestic with somebody, just refused all services we could offer her and refused to speak to any of the resources we offer. We help people in these situations as much as we can, but we can only help them if they want the help. We can't force them to seek help. So I wanted to touch on that a little bit if anybody had questions about that, of why we didn't do anything. It was noted in there that we had offered her resources, but she turned them all down. So frustrating on our part, but they have to be willing to get help also. So Halsey made the news for the first time in a while. If you saw our social media page, we had a pretty large marijuana operation. Right before, soon after we made entry, we were able to bring the mayor and Hillary over to kind of do a walkthrough to see the stuff and the environments that we go in. But really, this is a case to touch on because this is like textbook sheriff work in contract cities. This didn't originate from a tip or a call or another agency. This all occurred from a deputy spending time in Halsey and a lot of time in Halsey and becoming familiar with the city. So he's right next to me. He's a good friend of mine, Deputy Newman. So I didn't want to put anything in his words. So I wanted him, it's kind of a big deal. So I wanted him to touch base on that. And kind of, it wasn't just marijuana, which a lot of the comments you see on Facebook, we don't have anything better to do than bust the potheads and we just want money from this. That's not what it's about. We find a lot more stuff than marijuana, I promise. So I'm gonna have him stand up and talk a little bit about it and kind of tell his story. And then we'll get out of your hair. Any questions about what's in the report that I did not touch on? No. Good.
Hey there, so I'm Deputy Newman. I am assigned to Harrisburg as their resident deputy. For those of you who don't know who I am, I was assigned to the Lyme Drug Task Force for 4 years and came back to patrol last year. I was primarily tasked with marijuana investigations and overdoses, and so I was the investigating detective on the overdoses we had here, the young man from a few years ago. And still fighting with that in federal court with the female who was involved in selling those kids those things. This case that we had, we named it West First Chronic, was basically an operation. I had a recruit and we were at the storage facility over here on the south end of town on an unrelated call, and I could smell an odor of marijuana coming from somewhere. Walked around, ended up seeing that there was a warehouse behind a residence there, just on the north side of where our gas pumps are for county road departments. And saw a lot of activity around it that was indicative of like an indoor grow. Did some routine checks that showed that there wasn't anything legal about it that was going on. They had no licensing, no permit. So in the investigations I've done in my history, it's been more about like combating like greed crimes. And this is one of those things that we ended up figuring out, was that these people were not going out and doing the right thing and getting licenses or permits. In fact, they were just abusing the system in order to do what they were doing. And so in late December was when I found it. I ended up doing a little bit of surveillance on the place and stopped the car coming from there, and ended up getting a little over 26 pounds of marijuana out of a car that I wrote a telephonic search warrant on. I also got an ounce of meth from that stop and about a 1/4 ounce of cocaine and a little over $2,400 in cash. The guy who I'd stopped was on felony probation out of Eugene for delivery of marijuana in a case where he had actually been stopped in Florida with 100 pounds, and his originating area came from Lynn County at that time. So continue the investigation, worked with DEA on getting federal subpoenas on the power records at the location, and ended up finding out that they were using about 32 times more than the national average for that kind of structure. And then ended up offering a search warrant for this location in Halsey, and then the resident of the person I basically identified as like the ringleader in the whole thing that was up in Salem. And I used the line team to do that first one up there, and myself and a bunch of other deputies got the grow here. And in total, we got a little over 550 plants, about 82 pounds of dried marijuana, about 5.2 pounds of extracts, and a little over 2,500 in cash to add on top of what we had already released. So it was a successful search warrant. We ended up figuring out what they were doing with the marijuana was they were converting it into extracts, which is a very highly potent form of marijuana. The only purpose of extracts is to get very, very high. There's really no medicinal use for extracts. It's just to have a good time. And oftentimes it's disabling and it's not good for people who are driving or anything like that. There's literally no medicinal use for it. So they were converting it into extracts, and then they had plenty of shipping labels and everything showing they were sending this all over the United States and selling to people online. So it was successful, and I'm in the process of still closing it out. My search warrants include destruction orders from the judge. So we actually had deputies, after we eradicate the grow, we pack everything up into a trailer, and then it gets incinerated up in Covanta and Brooks. And then as far as the grow equipment, we literally tear everything down and onto the ground, and then either drill holes or throw it in water as far as the electrical equipment goes. So we also use the city resources and county building and planning, and they've already issued notices to the landowner and the tenant on, I think the last time I saw was about 10 or 14 different county code violations that they were doing. So it was successful. Again, people from Salem, this guy was a potentially armed career criminal. He had over 30 arrest records for robbery and felon possession of firearms. Everything had come right here into Halsey and had set up shop. He was storing his motorcycles there. He had affiliation with Gypsy Jokers. And so he's just a bad dude to have in this town. And now he's gonna likely just go away for a while. So yep, Sergeant Brandon asked me to just tell you guys about that, and that's all that in a Cliff Notes version, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, happy to answer any questions if you have any. He does.
Thank you very much. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So moving on, we're gonna do the delegation of, it's gonna be Sweet Home here. Sensation.
Sanitation in here, yeah.
Yeah, I can check all that up. Could be a slideshow. There we go, perfect. Well, thank you, council members. Thank you, Mayor. Everybody here, it sounds like it's a packed house tonight, so that's awesome. So we'll start off. So my name is Josh Stanley. I'm the site manager at Sweet Home Sanitation. I've been there about 8 months now. I've been with the company for just under 6 years. We are owned by a parent company called Waste Connections, and that's what I've been with for about 6 years. So the next slide, kind of who we are. We have 5 core values at Sweet Home Sanitation Waste Connections. Safety being number 1. Safety is above everything else. You know, I want to send my guys home at the end of the day, the way they came to work, and same thing with the community. Integrity is number 2, saying what we'll do and actually doing it. A lot of the times we get like an overflowing dumpster and it's urgent need. Like, you know, if we say we're going to do it, we'll be there and we'll service that on time. Not only does it, you know, sometimes it's nicer for the city, sometimes it needs to happen. So we follow that up with, we're going to do it. If we say we're going to do it, we will. Number 3, customer service. We provide the best customer service as far as if that's on route service, if that's on the phone service. One thing we are doing is we're opening our doors back in Sweet Home. Due to COVID, we had to shut them. And I believe mid-April, we're gonna open those doors back up to the public. So that's gonna be huge. I'm really looking forward to that. Number 4 is to be a great place to work. For our employees, we want to be the great place to work. So number 5 is to be the premier waste hauler. So if we hit the top 3, top 4, we will be the premier waste hauler. I would selfishly say we are the premier waste hauler. But I'm kind of biased to that. So leading with safety, you want to go back 2 slides?
Like it'll go for a bit. Oh,
There we go. So safety being number 1, that's our forefront. So we have what we call drive cams in our garbage trucks. So that's an inward facing camera and upward facing camera, cameras in the hopper and cameras in the rear view. So what that does is the drive cam will tell us if one of my drivers is texting and driving, I'll get an alert, that's risky behavior. If he runs a stop sign, if he's driving without a seatbelt on. So it is very, very easy to set off. And I can happily say in 2021 and 2022, we had 0 drive cams in the town of Halsey. So we're out there being safe. Also in that time frame, we had 0 incidents in the town of Halsey. So we're providing that number 1 core value, being safe. In order to do that, we have a very veteran group. Next slide. Thank you. This is our driver tenure. Lots of guys out there with a lot of time. So these guys provide that great customer service, that safe aspect that we need to be in business. And then the next slide is kind of our customer counts for 2022 and 2023. Residentially, we're about 307, commercial 27, roll off 4, for a total of 338 customers in the town. And then this one, the next slide is very unique. This is the tonnage that we have removed from the town of Halsey in 23. 312 tons of residential garbage, 97 tons of residential yard waste, 89 tons of residential recycling, 29 tons of commercial MSW, which is
just garbage, 12 tons of recycling for commercial, and then 26 tons for roll-off. We've removed 565 tons commodity in 2023. Now that number is big at the end of the year, so it's a lot of, we remove the stuff that you guys don't want. That's all we like. Going to the next slide. Kind of, oh, look at that, 2023 citywide cleanup, sorry. May 14th, sorry, no, 2022, this is the tonnage we removed during the 2 cleanups that we provide. May 14th cleanup was 16.9 tons. The October 1st cleanup is 14.6 tons. So that is not included in that total. So it's around 600 tons that we removed last year. So some special events for 2023. Cleanup day, we, Hillary and I chatted, we decided to move cleanup day to June 10th and October 14th. And then the household hazardous waste event will be October 7th at Sweet Home Transfer Station. That's where you can bring all your household hazardous waste. If you know what that is, just call the number. They have flyers and bring you guys of that. So basically that's Sweet Home Sanitation. Any questions? Nice.
Yeah, so one thing that. You're doing this for the rate increases this year?
Rate increases, yep,
What do you expect that to be?
8.15.
And do you recall what it was last year?
I do, it was 4.94.
That's double.
It is double, yes.
I don't know about other council members, but I get a lot of insurance complaints. Something simple as there's a trash bag tag hanging out and it gets charged as an overage. Or the open top. Top being open less than an inch, things like along that nature. And people aren't catching it until, a month or 2 later. And then you're being told when they call, sorry. And there's no way to check that. How do we work with our community members about getting it done in a timely manner? First of all, doubling the rate and having that kind of response to it, that's not okay.
So it should be anything over 45-degree angle is an extra bag. And so now let's say my drivers are out there just misjudging that. Maybe it's something I need to touch on now. But yeah, that's just going to be lines of communication with me and them that it is a 45-degree angle is when we charge the extra.
Okay. What do you have as far as reasons for the doubling of the CPI?
So 47% fuel increase. Labor, obviously everything's gone up in the last, COVID exponentially. Labor, just trying to be competitive with wages, we're up 17% from where we were. And then just the tires, the maintenance on the trucks is up 15 to 18%.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns?
I've had a few neighbors and our house has had an issue with it too, that have expressed issues, especially with recycling, because they're still worried about not having an overage charge, that they go in there and shove everything down. And then trucks come through and then there's still, 1.5 feet of stuff left in the bottom of the cans. Because they're trying so hard to avoid an overage charge. So for the customers that are trying to avoid, a 50-degree angle for an overage charge, but are getting stuff stuck in the cans, or can they call you and you guys come back out? Is it just they're out of luck, especially around Christmas? I think almost every house around us was complaining about it during like those times, especially.
Right, yeah. So most definitely if there's something stuck, obviously me, a paying customer, I know that if it's that, I'm like, kind of spruce it down. If it's stuck, it's stuck. That's not on you guys. We just need to do a better job. What we'd probably ask is that it gets loosened up would be it. I know in the winter months, the yard debris freezes together and it doesn't empty at all. So we run into that a lot. It's just part of being business. We have to service you guys. You guys are the customers. So yeah, it's something absolutely we do.
Anyone else? Any questions or?
Yeah, I have a question that a citizen asked me today, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
She was looking at the calendar and, it used to be in May and November that you collected yard debris every week instead of every other week, because those are times when people are really generating a lot of yard debris. And it didn't look like that was happening on the calendar this year. Is that a change?
No, so it is happening. I want to say May and the last week of October, so we run for a month straight. So for 1 month, we'll do every week yard debris, and I want to say it happens, it might be like the, April to May into that area, but it is happening, yes.
So it just got left off the calendar.
It should be on the calendar.
I'll never,
It's not, I just looked.
It's not, okay, it's on my calendar, I guess. But then we can resend the calendars out, but yes, it is happening.
But it's just for that 1 month,
Yep,
1 month in May, 1 month in October,
Yep.
not all those months in between.
correct.
Okay.
Just, yeah. And I want to say, yeah, so the tricky thing is it's 1 month. I want to say it's starting like late April and then late October. And, yeah. But I'll look at mine and send you guys that too.
Yeah, I just looked to see what today was.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, what the heck?
yeah,
It's not there.
okay,
thank you.
cool. Well, thanks for the feedback. That's good for me. I get to recommend guys.
Anyone else?
You don't have to have the calendar with you.
I don't.
Hmm.
I'm more than happy to bring some back though. I can bring some back tomorrow, yeah, but I don't have any with me, so.
Okay, thank you very much. And ODOT. You're up next.
Yeah. You're welcome to.
Hello, hey, I'm Andrea Mather. I am an assistant resident engineer at ODOT. Basically, I'm the project manager for the Halsey project. And you've seen me around town, that you probably have seen Willie, my inspector, who's out here every day. So plan tonight, just give you guys all a quick update on what we've done so far, what the next 6 months is gonna look like, and then what to expect beyond that. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So what have we done so far? So we started last August installing all the storm water pipes. So all the big pipes that go underground, that collect all the water and take it away. Those are all in. Well, 95% of them are in. So basically all of those are in. The swale at the school has been built and seeded and planted. And the swale down the south end of town, by the mini storage unit down there, that has been installed as well. The walls have been in, so those walls, were poured concrete stamped. They will have a stain that goes on them, so they won't be gray. They'll be like more of a brown color. So, they're gonna look nice and antiqued and historic is the goal for those walls. There's a rail that goes on top of them as well. So they should be fairly decorative and serve the purpose that we need for the road. And then as you've all seen, the grading, we've graded for the curb and the sidewalk from F Street up to American. And then this week, we're gonna pour curbs. I've been telling Hillary that we're gonna pour curbs for like 6 weeks, but this week we're gonna do it. Hopefully, maybe. No, weather should be good enough. We hope. It's the contractor's schedule, not mine, but they have every intention of pouring them this week. So it should be a pretty exciting day on Thursday when they pour those curbs from F to American. I don't know if they're doing both sides of the road, but I know for sure per schedule, they're doing the west side of the road, so in front of the school, in that stretch of the road. So that's what we've done so far. What should you guys expect for the next 6 months? So the way I look at it, we have a big push this spring and this summer. What does that look like for you guys? So again, from F to American, we'll finish the curbs, the sidewalk, and we will do paving of the roadway. Now when I talk about paving of the roadway, it's gonna be everything but the top 2 inches. It's gonna look normal, it's gonna look like a regular road, but there will be the top 2 inches that we're not gonna do this year. That's what we're gonna come back and do next year. I'll explain that a little more later. But expect that from F2 American. And then in the concrete section, we will also do the curb sidewalks. But the paving section there is a little more intense. We take out all that concrete and treat the base. So we will slow down the production when we start working in that area, just because there's so much more work to do. So expect kind of production to slow down when we get into the concrete section. And expect traffic controls still be kind of what you see today, but there might be some different shifts. We'll work with the contractor to get that well signed and well maneuvered. The other thing down there is one of the traffic control phases. We have very narrow lanes. This will trigger through, will trigger truck detour. So we will have signs that will show that large trucks should not come through town and should take the freeway. So there'll be signs from Eugene to Corvallis telling trucks not to do this, not to come through town. There will be more outreach and just be talking about this tonight before we put any of those signs up. So it won't hopefully. The plan is not to just surprise that truck detour signage on you guys, but so you guys will know when that's going to go into effect and when so you guys can plan for it. Any businesses, because there's a lot of trucks that come through here and a lot of trucks that come to local businesses. And we want to make sure you guys have a path to get to your business and you can talk to your truck drivers. And if you need to route things around, you have well advance notice to do that. But that's when we're in the concrete section, close in the very south end of town, is when it will be in effect. So that's honestly, that's what will get us through this summer, is doing curbs through town, sidewalks through town, and the paving through town. That'll take us most of the next 6 months. Like I said, the concrete will take extra time because of we're removing all of the concrete and it'll all be asphalt. So hopefully much quieter in that part of town. And we have been working extensively with the fire department. They have a large access there and we are maintaining access to the fire. So they will be, we talk to them all the time. So that's a concern that's been raised several times and we talk with Travis. I know Travis. So we work well with them to figure out a plan for them to maintain access to the facility down there. So that'll bring us through the next 6 months. And then what does next year look like? So hopefully next spring-ish, we will do that final lift of paving, so that last 2 inches. And there's a lot of reasons why we do final paving the way we do. It'll make the asphalt last longer. So there's a reason behind our madness. But we'll do that final lift of paving and then do striping and turn everything over to you guys, turn the sidewalks over to you guys and have a beautiful road that goes through town. So the completion of the contract is next July, so 2024. The current contractor schedule shows it's finishing before that time. But it's rained a lot every day for the last month. So I don't control the weather and I don't control any pandemics or anything else. So I don't want to guarantee anything. Hopefully by next summer will be all I go. That's kind of what we're doing and the plan moving forward. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Are you going to sidewalks?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, sidewalks through the whole town. So from American to well, all the way to, I'm spacing on the last letter.
Oh,
All the way down, thank you. So it'll go all the way down. Yeah, both sides. ADA ramps, so we'll have curb ramps. We have some protected crosswalks, so you can cross the road with some flashing lights. So you push a button, the lights will flash, cars should stop, and you should be able to cross
Yeah.
These new ramps that are put in, got these knobs,
Yeah,
you know. Those are horrible.
they're required by federal law. It's for blind local insurance, so they can protect them with their pains. So their feet, so they can see, so they know that they're entering a roadway, so they can.
I was. Wondering how what
Yeah,
that was.
so their purpose, yeah, they have a purpose. So you can tell them, you know, you're gonna enter a roadway.
I just have one little thing. I live on C Street and when we pull out.
Yeah.
You know, it's right now,
Very narrow.
it's very narrow, but it's not signed very well
Okay.
as to where to turn. It's like this little sign like this big that says keep right.
Okay.
And I know there's so much on the end of that street right now as it is. And so when you're turning, it's like, oh, wait, where am I supposed to be? So just a little,
I'll talk to the contractor.
Something if the- yeah, just some, I mean, it's a hard spot, I know, to even do anything, but it's kind of confusing.
Hopefully, when we get the curbs in, we can push some stuff back and make it easier. I'll talk to them.
Okay.
I had a couple of quick questions. Just in general, why is this taking so long? It seems like in Junction City, they did a 7-mile stretch in a month during the summer.
Were they just paving in Junction City?
They were paving, they replaced a way station turnout, they did the rumble strips on the side and things like that. But I mean, is there something different that you're doing?
Doing these full rebuilds, brand new storm systems, brand new curbs, brand new sidewalks, brand new streetlights, moving the utilities around. Taking all that concrete out, and we're actually going all the way down to the base and treating all of that takes a lot of time. The Junction City project, they just paved, and not to say that was just like one component, and we're doing like 15 components. So doing all these other things, and we have to do it in a certain stage so we can get those right grades and make sure the water flows. Always thinking flat, so making sure all that water flows just takes some effort.
So that was my actual second question. There's a couple of storm drains that have been put in down on J Street. And there's a lot of water down there that is standing and it just doesn't go anywhere. And even with those new storm drains, I mean, they're not draining anything.
There are changes in grades, and the inlets that are in now are not to finished grade, and so those will still be adjusted.
Okay,
But
good.
nothing's at finished grade now.
Great.
Most things are not finished grade, so everything is still being adjusted.
That's good. Thank you.
Yes, we still have adjustment rings to put on, and we'll do that when we do those, when we pay, we'll get it, then it'll get solid.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. One comment and one question. First comment was, I went to the store, it hasn't been too long ago, and I pulled out and you guys were working on the pull out for the store.
Yeah.
And all the equipment was parked there, I think it was a weekend, and I had to pull pretty much into the street to see anything.
Yes.
That was kind of an issue.
I'll talk to the contractor about not storing equipment in those sightlines.
Yeah. The question I had was, I work for the county road department and we have out on Falk. If you come out here, Falk bypasses Halsey. We have a lot of trucks who bypass Halsey just to skip all this crap.
Yeah.
Not this crap, but the crap before the road.
The crap we're fixing.
Yes. That road is Chips Hill Road. It was gravel originally. And it cannot take the weight. So I'm curious with your bypass, when you're doing that, when you're doing the concrete pull out, is there gonna be any implementation to divert them away from going through that road? Or has there been communication with the county?
Not to my knowledge, but I can follow up with the county. Our truck detour takes them to I-5 and 99 go. So we won't detour on the county roads or city roads. Because like you said, those roads aren't built for the truck traffic. That's the highway near.
Yeah. Just curious.
My question is related, and I could of course take it offline, but you're here right now, so. When they were flagging at the north end of town, I again got a handful of complaints about cars that were ducking around that and zooming. In this case, it was east first and west first. Cars were trying to get around the intersection. I had a conversation with the sheriff department, and they're willing to have like an additional presence here sometimes when they're flagging. I just wondered if it would be possible for the contractor, maybe shoot me an email the day before and say, hey, we're gonna be flagging tomorrow. Because then I can alert the sheriff's office, hey, this would be a good time for you to, be present in town and just help us catch some of those problems.
Yes. I know, I will let you know.
That's
awesome. I don't always know. If I-
And you're saying, hey, you're gonna see this next week or you're not. I'm just wondering if they can dial it in, like if Justin probably knows.
Usually I do know, and so like I can, or I can get Justin and we can figure it out. So, because again, we don't. I know we can bypass Holby and city streets, I do it. So, we don't cause a safety issue on the residents.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't ban it, like I can't say no, sure, and I can't on the street, I can't say no, but I can ask some questions that I can do some. Perfect, thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you all have my business card, so if anything comes up, I email Hillary, try to do every week, I don't always do it, but if you have questions, feel free to send me an email.
Thank you. Okay, were there other delegations you wanted to move up? Hillary?
I think the budget committee.
Budget committee, okay, that's what I have. So. Oh.
Hi, hi there, I'm Ian Rohold. I manage the design portion of the project. I'll be really brief, because I think you want an update about the railroad crossing and progress we're making on that. If anyone's seen the plans of the project, you'll notice the project doesn't include the railroad crossing. We're still doing it. We're still progressing towards getting it done. The challenge is that we're trying to get an agreement done with Union Pacific Railroad to do work at the crossing. The nature of our project requires us to work out an agreement there. And so right now we're still working towards that agreement. We should have that done. We're thinking by the end of summer. And once that agreement is in place, then we know for certain we can progress with including that work with the project. So that's
We're just the train's not wanting to work with you, or what's going on with that?
the Union Pacific is redoing their process for how they do agreements with ODOT large.
Okay.
So this project is in that mix of other projects across the state.
Right.
Through these agreements and changes to language and Department of Justice review, and things like that. So
Good times.
it's just a long time. So,
I say hopefully that crossing makes it that long.
yeah,
Pretty bad.
yeah, no, ODOT cares very much to fix.
Yeah.
And it's very important to the community too. So,
Well, very important to get it done for all traffic. period.
yes.
And Ian, my understanding is it will happen either way. It's just you're trying to work out the timeline to where it can happen as part of this project in the same timeline. It doesn't have to be done separately. Is that correct?
Yeah, so right now, that work sits in like another ODOT project, like that we have currently scheduled to occur immediately after this one's complete. If for some reason the agreement gets done quicker, we could possibly add it into this construction too. So whether it comes immediately after or with this construction, we're still pursuing and trying to get it done.
Still happening.
Yeah, it's still happening.
Awesome.
Still negotiating.
Still negotiating, we made a long way, and now it's really more about drafting and. Union Pacific's office is in Omaha, Nebraska, so there's distance there, there's layers of communication, I can't call them up directly, we have liaisons for these things. It's
Of course.
not as simple
The
as-
irresistible force and the unmovable object.
That's right.
it's not as simple as me calling up Hillary and saying, hey, how's, this going on? I don't have somebody, just call us. It's a challenge. Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that to us.
Yes.
Because that's the part that people don't see. They just see that it's taking forever, or why can't this just be done?
Yeah.
But they don't realize the whole different layers of everything. So,
A lot of bureaucracy.
yeah, exactly.
Lost Lord.
Things get lost. Later sometimes.
A little bit, you'd be surprised. Yeah.
It starts at red over here, by the time it gets over here, it's yellow.
Mhm. Yeah. Trains and automobiles are a little bit different
Yeah,
things, yeah.
things were there before automobiles.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do that. with
Okay. They left you.
So much for having us on Elizabeth.
Absolutely. So the next item on the agenda is appointing a budget committee member or members. We have two applicants, Margie Klein and Sunday. Both have served on the budget committee before. Is there any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, we can do one or two motions. How you choose to do it, but I would entertain a motion. Motions.
Page 37.
There's two openings.
What's that?
There's two openings.
There's actually 4 openings, so
Well, I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey appoint Margene Klein and Ann Sunday as budget committee members.
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is citizen comments. It's time for interested citizens, mostly who have left now, I think. Anyone in the audience to address the council on any item of concern? Anybody online? Okay, going once, going twice, moving on. The next is reports to council. We'll start with employee reports with Hillary.
okay. If you'll forgive me, I'm going to streamline the written portion of this. You got a lot on your plate this evening. So Cascades West Regional Consortium met, still looking for funding for the second half of the proposed pilot to create a public litigation bank instead of a private one to try to reduce the cost of available credits. Those credits would be available just in this region or just in the partner. But it's a ways out because we're still trying to find the funding to do the plans just for a pilot. I gave you a list of bills that we're tracking that all have relating to wetlands. So that is in there if you want to look at them yourself and OLIS. And some of them may not receive hearings at all, but there are a couple that might actually help Halsey if they move forward. We have a new librarian. She can't be here tonight. She's still working out her notice at her other position, but her name is Abrielle Vincent. She goes by Abby. She's studying her MLS. She has a year of experience in a very small library with shoestring budget, much like our own. As a volunteer coordinator, and as a board member. She has experience with fundraising and outreach, and she has experience planning programs and working with youth. So she has some skill sets and some experience that we think are going to be pretty valuable in our library. And we're excited to work with her. So we were blessed to have some really strong candidates. So we are 2 or 3 deep. There were a couple people, it's really hard to tell them that they didn't win out. So, you know, that was a nice thing for our small library. Question for the council about the Parks Committee. It was originally constituted just to do the Parks Master Plan, which is essentially complete. We have a few members of it that are still interested in continuing to be involved with the project, potentially, you know, future grant writing or fundraising or project management, or just continuing to be involved. But it's small. We have 1 citizen, a counselor, and a staff member that are still interested. We have our library advisory committee is now down to a counselor and a citizen, and the counselor, by the way, is in common with both groups. And so the suggestion
not many of them.
was made to consider combining those two and have like a library and parks committee and have them meet quarterly, just so that there's, you know, a little more energy in the room, a little more inertia, more hands to help. And, you know, the park folks can help with the library folks can help with the park, and it's all good for Halsey. Does council have any concerns about that? Is that okay?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
All right. Water Resources Department grant that I'd sent you in an email is not going to work out. We don't apply for it. We don't have enough environmental impact, water quality impact. So, but we're still waiting to hear on the state funding, and there's a possibility to apply for some earmark funds to the federal government that I'm now exploring. So the journey marches on. I'm just trying to keep you in the loop on all of those. The Umpqua Bank is purchasing Columbia Bank. Well, they're merging, but they're going to be called Umpqua Bank. So however that works out, it's a bank transition. It should be mostly invisible to citizens, but it's stressful for staff. So a little bit of our time is going to go into managing that. I gave you a list of upcoming events. Would love to have your participation, especially in things like the 5K and the tree planting, but anything that you're able to come. And I have two things that aren't on here. One is that we have had a contract for several years with Willamette Valley Refrigeration. They service commercial fridges. Our fridge downstairs, which was purchased 10 years ago, is a commercial fridge. It was also a relatively inexpensive commercial fridge and is not great quality. We replaced the compressor on it once and we were told more recently, basically it has a slow leak and it's not worth investing any money in, and we'll keep refilling the coolant for now. And at some point, this fridge is just going to quit on you and it'll be time for a new fridge. And some of you were in the room when we had this conversation before, and I said, look, we'll do a couple of residential fridges. Well, Willamette Valley Refrigeration, the owner of the company, was here the other day and he said, listen, I've got a line on some commercial fridges that are 4 years old. You know, a company upgraded all of the fridges in all of their stores. And I think I'm in a position to donate one to the city. Let me confirm that. He had a conversation with the person who has them. He is donating us a new commercial fridge.
Wow.
So way to go, Willamette Valley Refrigeration, and I'd like to give them a great big thank you and kudos to you guys. It's just an incredible gift. I mean, these commercial fridges, $6,000 to $9,000. Well, and that's when I was shopping for that one 10 years ago. So they're probably more now. So it's a really, you know, it's used.
Yeah.
But he's the guy who services them. He'll make sure we get a good one.
Yeah.
So any concerns with my accepting that donation? And allowing him to remove our old fridge? Somebody don't all the way, okay.
I'm concerned you haven't done it already.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. All right. And last, just a quick update. I think many of you know Ken has some health concerns. He's south of here in the sun. Both he and his wife have had some health improvements down there. He has not been able to take oath since January. That's 3 meetings. It's 90 days. Technically, by the council rules, after 60 days, council can declare his seat vacant. He told me today that he's intending to be here in April and he'll address council, and he wants to leave it up to council if you want to ask him to resign or if you want him to say. You have the power to do that tonight, but he asked if you could wait until April and he'll be here and y'all can talk about it. Is that okay? That's fine. All right.
I think it's only fair to let them be here.
All right. And that's my report.
Next is Public Works Department with Andy. Are you here? Andy?
Hello, can you hear me?
You can hear you now.
Oh, perfect. So, good evening, everybody. On the water side of my report, we replaced a curb stop valve on the Hunter block of 4th Street. We needed to do this because our backflow tester was unable to isolate the valve for the backflow device so it could finish off its testing for the season. Out of the wastewater plant, we got a new auto dialer installed out there. All new electrical stuff put out there. It's all set up, ready to go. When the electrician was out there performing his job, we had to shut the effluent down. And when we started it back up, well, we had some problems. And long story short, we got it back up and running after about 4 days. But the system was put in 1969. And I talked to Hillary a little bit about it. And we talked about, hey, let's do some research on some alternative ways to get away from the gas system. There's a lot of components that goes with that. Goes to the regulators from the bottles. It goes to the chlorinator. It goes through a vacuum system. I think there's an easier solution to get rid of that old system that we've been having problems with as it ages. And so once we get that information, I'll talk to Hillary and we can report it at that time. And at the library, we pulled that old gas heater that was there. We finished taping everything up and textured it and painted it, even though it doesn't quite match up. We tried to match it up, but didn't quite match up. Sarah says, "Oh, we're gonna put a shelf there anyway, so it'll be just fine." And the last is on the dump truck. We got new tires on the front end, and one of our trailers, one of the tires blew out, and so we replaced it. And that's all I have to report.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions, comments? Thank you much, Andy.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. And next, moving on is library with Sarah.
Hi, everyone.
Hello there.
I don't understand why everyone laughed before I spoke. All right, at the library last month, our daily threshold count was about 4 patrons a day. 80 people came in. We did a Lego day for families, which quite a few kids enjoyed. Hillary gave me Legos to use, and the kids built their little creations. And what they loved most was putting their Lego art up next to our current artist's work. So they felt very fancy and professional.
Awesome.
We're doing a puzzle day on March 23rd. We added 23 books to our inventory, so our total inventory value is at about 80,000. We just received 40 brand new books from our senator to add to our collection, which was an awesome surprise. Our third artist, who's a photographer, her name is Leah Jordan. She'll be hanging her photos the last week of March. And I have 2 more artists lined up, which should fill their spots for the remainder of the calendar year. And still working on the 5K. So Saturday, April 22nd at 9, the 5K promotional poster and sponsorship request letter have been posted and gone out to most everyone I can think of, but I still think of people and go on in and ask for their support. The race entry profile for online registration was created, and we already have 3 signups via the website. We got our first sponsorship from Room for $100 a couple weeks ago. The application for the road permit has been submitted, so we're just waiting for approval. And so basically I'm just working on the race day details, and I'll pass that along to Maddie and Julia and to our new librarian, Abby, who started with me last week. And then she'll also work with me Friday and Saturday, and then we'll work together the last 2 weeks of March. So she should be good to go. I think you'll really like her. Yeah, she'll be a wonderful addition to the town and to the library. So yeah, so this is my last council meeting, and yeah, I'm sad. I love this job and I love this town, so I'm sad to leave, but thank you so much for welcoming me. Absolutely. You all and everyone in town and my coworkers. I just need to be available for my parents, but if you ever need anything in the future, all you have to do is text, and I'd be happy to help if I can.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You can come to the city council meeting.
Okay.
They've missed me for the past few months because I have been sick.
So next item is council reports. The Central Lynn School District with Michelle.
I don't necessarily have a lot on here this month. Council or the school board was last night. This Thursday, they're doing a career day at the high school. So they've got, and I can't remember, she said it was like 28 different businesses. And she said they're still getting more added each day. And even as of yesterday anyways, they're still getting people added, that there's going to be different like booths. And so the kids can spend so much time and then it's like switch to another one. So looking forward to that. That should be good to be able to get the kids out there with different ideas. Coming from a small town, a lot of times you don't have ideas of what are out there elsewhere. The drama department they're putting on the play Little Shop of Horror. It's in April. I did not get the date, but I can if you're interested. She said here, Kyle was saying that cool thing is that the big gigantic plant in the movie is there's one that was built years ago. And so it travels around the state to different schools or whatever that are putting on this play. So I guess it takes up the whole back end of a pickup. And so they're going to get that soon, so.
That's awesome.
They are. They're not, they decided to not put a cap on to how many students can transfer in to Central Inland. Usually they do the district to district transfers, so just a small thing they're trying to encourage more involvement, more people coming in, so. And go figure, just like us, they have openings on their budget committee.
Hmm.
So. And the last thing is that it's kind of just beginning in the works, is that they're going to be doing demoing the ag building out at the high school, which is as you pull in, you go around the roundabout. It's the building on the north there. They're going to be demoing in that and then rebuilding. It's going to have 3 different bays in it. They're going to kind of start doing more elective classes. And they're going to have a construction bay, a culinary bay, and a mechanics bay.
Oh, wow.
So super excited about that. That's going to be like a huge addition kind of thing to be able to bring those things back, get some trades introduced and everything. So that's, like I said, in the works. It's kind of just getting started. So super excited about that. So that's about it.
Thank you. Next is the Cascade West Area Commission on Transportation with Randy.
I'm so sorry I did not make it.
Okay. Storage report, no demands. Next is the Oregon Cascades West Council on Governments with Jeremy.
That's me. So the thing that was probably most talked about was that the SNAP households have been receiving emergency allotments since COVID and 2020. And it basically ranges between, $95, $100, depending on, what your family setup is. And as of March 1st, those emergency allotments are going away. And so with the inflation, the cost of food going up, the amount of help folks are getting is going down. It's a federal decision, and the Department of Human Services just isn't able to keep up with the allotments any longer. They did the COG provided some local food shares information and places that you can call or go to in order to receive help if you're not getting enough funding to feed your family. And those were passed out to the city employees. And I think they put some information up around here somewhere. So around city council, or we have access to that information. If anybody needs to contact us, we can get it to them.
Awesome.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Can I interrupt, Curtis? Just
Yeah.
one thing I forgot.
Huh.
Is that I put it out for the 5K, Sarah, and the junior high softball team. Can I help? Yeah.
Okay.
So I need to,
Information.
yes, no, contact me or, I do, I could give you her number and stuff. She kind of just volunteered her husband's. Just. And then also Julia, I have Candace, she's going to be writing a letter of support. So I've sent her the information and she will get it to us as soon as possible. So, yeah, sorry, I forgot those key things.
Okay. So somebody got voluntold, huh?
Mhm.
So next item on the agenda is old business. And this is electing a council president. Do you have any update on that or?
District plan has, I think I said this last
Yeah.
time, Ken has said that he would like to step away from that because he doesn't feel that he's not confident he'll be able to fulfill the responsibility. I did add motions on here for bank account signers. The top one would just create the new council president or someone else, if you want to split the task, as a bank signer. The lower one would remove Ken and create a new bank signer. So you can do both. In my notes, I suggested leaving 10 and having 4 signers. There's some redundancy if somebody's traveling or hospital or something. It's not a bad idea. But it's completely up to council what you want to do.
Okay. Are there any questions or discussion or? Really? Nothing?
I say, I don't mind stepping up and doing it
Okay.
if we need somebody or I don't know who
Okay.
else or whatever, but just throwing it out there.
Wow, crickets. I thought there'd be more discussion for sure. Well, I would entertain a motion then.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey appoint Counselor Isom to serve the city council president of the 2023 to 2024 biennium.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And as to the signers,
Council should make a motion
Yeah.
about signing
right,
unless you want to leave it with just Ken, and I'm concerned about that due to his traveling.
I would entertain a motion for signing.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey appoint Counselor Isom to be the signer on the city bank accounts.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, and I'm sorry, Michelle.
Yeah, I kind of just volunteered, so I did it.
Yeah.
But, you know.
So. Next item is regional advocacy strategy and lobbyist proposal.
Okay, I'm sorry to subject you to another PowerPoint, but it's a short one. So
When I was trying to bring it up earlier, how many years it's been since
I'm so sorry. Okay, so this grew out of conversations last summer about the League of Oregon Cities priorities, not reflecting rural communities particularly well, and this council struggling to find priorities that would be useful and meaningful to Halsey. We sent a letter to the let me move on to the next slide, because I'm just gonna, it really is quick.
Just give me a little.
Okay, sorry, thank you. So we sent them a letter, we met with them, they said, we are updating our strategic plan, we have a new director. We will look at the, you know, how our committees are composed, how we're recruiting for them. But they were non-committal beyond that. Go ahead and go on. I threw this up here to remind me to say, I mean, the LOC, they are sincere in their service to Oregon cities. They're sincere in trying to do a good job representing all of us and in fighting for home rule, for things that's, you know, for good things for cities. They are also vastly outnumbered. And they have their membership is created both of urban and rural cities. And sometimes that means what Halsey needs, Portland may not. And so sometimes the priorities of rural cities can get a little bit watered down in the fact that they're trying to meet the needs of all of their members. I'm trying to explain, I'm not throwing them under the bus. They are good for what they can do, but also their structure limits how well rural cities are represented. So this has been a conversation with 5 rural cities. Let's go ahead and go on to the next one. Oops, okay. So this has been a conversation with 5 rural cities currently: Spottville, Brownsville, Harrisburg, Scioto, and Halsey. But if we move forward with this, our goal would be to have 30 other rural cities signed up by the end of the year, and to involve rural cities from across the regions, coastal, eastern, southern, to get to be able to amplify rural voices. I don't think, and that spreads cost, it spreads burden. At this point, we can't afford to hire a professional lobbyist to go to Salem. Well, we could, but I'd be asking for a lot more money to go to Salem on our behalf. But the proposal we're considering would help us do best advocacy and help us create the structures to align with other cities so that we can amplify that voice by having letters come from small cities all across the state in support of a particular issue that's important to our rural community. Scott sent me that slide, and I just thought it was cute. He says we're the donkey. So. So there's the sick, and we, you know, get both of us waved at us from Salem from time to time. So, but we, yeah, so I think well, let's go on. I'm sorry. I kind of skip around. I'm sorry. Okay, so these are sort of where we are coming to this conversation, that the political balance in Salem, just due to the political structure of our state, minimizes rural voices, and much of Oregon is rural. The LOC has struggled to represent rural stories and means effectively. It's not that they don't care or that they don't try, but there are challenges for them. Small city resources are limited, and that keeps our voice quiet. Halsey doesn't have the money to hire our own lobbyist, or to staff up for that. So, and we want the work we put into advocacy to yield results. And one of the things about working with a professional lobbyist to train us to do that work well is he can help us make sure we're putting our hand in the right place on the lever, so that we're not throwing a lot of effort into something that isn't going to yield results, and instead tee ourselves up for the best support, the best approach, the best strategy to make that work valuable. And the general principle of, if we don't act, we are acted upon. If we stay quiet and Halsey and live our lives, that's a choice. But then we are ceding some power. And so general principle would be best representation of our citizens, might be to try to take an active role. It's all a question of resources, right?
Right.
So go on to the next one, if you don't mind, Marissa. So this is this proposal that was included in the packet. Shante is a lobbyist. He lives in Lebanon. He's very aligned with Rural Voices. Both Ginger and Sio and Scott know him and have known him for several years. He's also acquainted with our legislators. He would help educate staff, elected officials, citizens on effective methods of advocacy, help us have processes to create priorities, come to consensus on those, forge alliance with other small cities, build consensus, identify opportunities, and strengthen our voices. The interesting thing about having a relationship with him is, although we wouldn't be paying him to go to Salem and lobby for us every day, we would then have that relationship there. So that if there's something that's like an, oh my God, we have to fight this right now, we need help, we already have a relationship with somebody. We could say, hey, listen, we do want to hire you for this one. Get up there, spend a day, see if you can see what you can do. And also, well, just that we're adding that skill to our set. He basically becomes a member of our team. The current proposal is limited. It would be for 1 year. It would involve trainings with leadership, trainings individually with each council, and potentially more than one if we want, a strategic session with all the cities and councils, and then sort of being available to us for follow-up training, for advice, potentially even for helping us watch for bills. I mean, I don't know that we would be hiring him for that at that point, or that we'd be holding him accountable, but one of the things he's done is bill us for about half of what he would normally bill for, because he thinks rural voices are underrepresented. And I think that he would be watching for bills that actually impact rural communities, and, you know, saying something to Scott or me or Ginger so that we could kind of activate ourselves. So that is what this is about. It would be, we would spend some money on this year if we want to do it. I had a conversation with Scott. I was like, if we add more cities, isn't that going to add cost? And he said, not at this point, because what they would do is invite cities to attend other trainings. So if Monroe joined up, then maybe we'd have a training with Harrisburg and Monroe, and maybe we'd have one with Halsey and Tangent or something like that, just to kind of keep the cost contained. I don't see why we couldn't do that, or why that wouldn't still be valuable. So, and like I said, our goal is actually to get small cities from across the state to partner with us. So that's what this proposal is. And the question is for council, if you are interested.
Council, any questions?
You want your last slide?
Oh, yeah, it's on my slide. By the way, I borrowed this from Scott and, changed it. So yes, I love that.
Oh, interesting. Hmm. Ouch.
Anybody, questions, comments, concerns?
And it's $1,000 a month. Is that?
Yeah, shared between the 5 cities and still discussing that may be weighted by population. So in which case Brownsville and Harrisburg would be paying more than Halsey. Scioto would be paying about the same, but Sotaville would be paying quite a bit less because they are very, very, very small. They also don't have a tax base. It's probably appropriate for them to pay less. So, yeah, and then if we add more cities, then that can further defray that cost.
What's the size of the cities that you're targeting or wanting?
We want a hard ceiling on that because rural values, it's interesting, it's not just geology and it's not just size. Size-wise, we're rural. Geology, we're right in the middle of the Willamette Valley. We're surrounded by Corvallis, Albany, Eugene. But that doesn't necessarily mean that our needs are aligned with them. So it's not just a geographical question. It's also not just a size question. We were in a meeting with city manager of Albany and he opened his mouth and dropped some of the most eloquent stuff I've ever heard about some of the decisions Salem's making right now. And our focus is on small and on rural. But I don't know that we would necessarily want to lock the door on another community that shares those values just because they're a couple thousand or 10,000 or more than us. We want a coalition defending rural voices, but those voices come from a variety of sizes. So
that makes sense, and I like that.
Anyone else? I entertain a motion then.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey approve Halsey's participation in the multi-city rural coalition.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And the next item on the agenda, is being weighted by all. The utility rates for 2023-2024. This is for discussion only, no action is going to be taken. And Hillary, anyway.
everybody's favorite time of the year. Inflation has continued. The index we're using is about 6%. This does impact everything from cost of power, cost of fuel, cost of equipment, cost of contractors, cost of materials. The increases we did for stormwater last year are sufficient and should be for a while, so you don't need to worry about that for this year at least. But I'm concerned about both the water and the sewer utilities. The general principle which Halsey has followed and which is kind of reinforced both by RCAC, rural community. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to get you that acronym, but they're a third party independent. They work with small, they're a nonprofit. They work with small rural community utilities. And both they and Business Oregon say that it's much less harmful for low-income households to have very small incremental increases every year versus no increases. And then all of a sudden we've got a $15 hike because we had an emergency and we've suddenly got to get some money to fix something. So the general principle that Halsey has followed of having a small increase every year rather than large ones periodically is general. USDA reinforces that too. The recent RCAC water rate study suggested large rate increases over the next 5 years to grow reserves. I am hesitant to ask you for that. It's certainly something you can do. My concern is that it is not only our water utility, it's also our sewer utility, and that I think that large increases are burdensome for our citizens, and a lot of them are disadvantaged in various ways. So as compact, as small as we can make it is better. Because we are looking at some upcoming utility projects, both in water and in sewer. I do think it's fiscally responsible to continue building up those reserves. A $3 per month rate increase is a lot less than having a bond or increase to property taxes or a desperate emergency increase because the contact chamber at the lagoon fails. So we know we need the well. We're teed up for the INAC project. We kill it if we have to. I'd rather not. I think there's some pretty intense advantages to fixing those pipes before they fail completely. The contact chamber, the dechlorinization process that Andy mentioned, I don't know how much equipment would have to be replaced. I mean, this is a from the ground up research. I'll start with our engineers in OAWU. I don't know if this is a $10,000 thing, which would be easy, or $300,000 thing, which would not. But regardless, we're doing some needed work on both water and sewer utility systems, and I suspect it will be good for our citizens if we continue to be aggressive about how much money we put in the reserves. So I suggested $2 to $3 per utility. You can do anything you want. And I guess that's a summary of what I put in there for you. Sure. And this, again, you can't do rate increases without a hearing. So really what I'm looking for is advice on how you'd like me to build the budget. This isn't a final decision, but it is sort of a consensus or input opportunity that will help me with that.
I think that the small incremental is important. We need to follow that as we have in past years. I think $2 to $3 per is fair, especially since our community is predominantly, I don't say lower income, but
What word did you just use?
I said disadvantage.
disadvantaged.
I tend to snag on,
Yeah.
words that are currently in use and then
That's
use
what-
them.
yeah.
I exploit them. I'm sorry. I do that.
No, I just, it struck me, it struck me so hard, I couldn't remember it.
Especially with fuel prices going up and people having to travel from Halsey to neighboring communities for jobs, we need to be cognizant of that. But we definitely need to do something.
It's a necessary evil, I mean, it's.
Yeah,
it's-
and that's very good. Right.
We have to
Don't
have
want to.
water.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Not an option for,
well, and I agree with putting as much as we can aside on the reserves, because obviously we've got some stuff coming up.
Big stuff.
We all know we have older equipment on anything and everything around too. So,
And at the same time, everything we do pays us back. I mean, it's
Right.
easy to look at the mountain in front of us and say, dear God, we're never gonna have $5 million to replace our entire collection system. But at the same time, if we do this I&I work, we now have sections of the town that are healthy
Right.
for a while longer. If we are able to change the chlorination system at the lagoon, not only is it safer for our employees, but it's modernized then.
Right.
Whatever piece of equipment we had to replace is now a modern piece of equipment that has a life in front of it. It's sad that we're, desperately needing a well, but when we rebuild it, we'll have a new well and we'll have 2 well-functioning wells for a while. It's overwhelming, but also at the same time, we're able to turn around in the end and say, this system has another 10 years, it has another 20 years, it has another 30 years because of our stewardship. So.
And you said making sure we have good drinking water and sewer remediation is important to prevent sickness and stuff like that. So everybody,
yes, I would suggest go forward with the. I mean, did we just tell you 2 to 3 and then you make it up? from there?
Or you can.
Are we supposed to tell you 2 or 3, or can we split it and say 250?
You can do
I mean, I don't know.
And that,
95,
Really like
95. I mean, is that what you need from us?
I will take any guidance you would give. So you could be saying Hillary, I just don't think we can do it. I think we should do nothing. You can say Hillary. I approve of the small things, but let's keep it to 1. You can say, okay, well, we want to do minimal impact but 2 seems reasonable. It's completely up to you. And you can say Hillary, do 2 to 3, and I'll sit there with those numbers and I'll plug it in with $2 and I'll plug it in with $3 and I'll see what, where we are in terms of being able to afford the things we have to do. It's completely up to you. It's just valuable to me to have whatever feedback you're willing to give at this point.
if it's not too time intrusive. Ha ha ha. If you could do run the numbers for 2 and run numbers for 3 and see how much of a change. At the end.
Well, I will do that as part of building the budget.
Right.
However, this is the last meeting. I mean, you'll see me again before we have the budget meeting, but I have about,
Okay.
as soon as I finish payroll in March, I've got about 2.5 weeks to write a budget.
Okay,
And that's a sprint. So I can't, it will be hard for me to like go back and forth and do check-in. So.
but I think
Use your judgment, 2 to 3.
it sounds like an Alex, but I think the 3 would be the bigger bang for the buck, long term, getting us towards the new well, et cetera. What do you guys think?
I don't like it. Nobody's gonna like it, but it's a necessary thing. We gotta do it.
Yeah.
They're really not gonna like it when that stuff fails, worse than it already is.
Yeah.
Right.
And do we have to justify that? I mean, it looks like what you did here was take, 6.3% inflation of whatever the previous cost was. And I mean, you justify that, average, everything is going up, say 10 to 20%.
Mhm.
We're raising prices by 7%, and then whatever that comes out to. Like,
Yeah, it's,
way to do it.
So there's no formal process in which we justify it. The process is that you have to be comfortable looking your neighbors in the face. And you're the ones that end up voting on this when you adopt the budget in June. So it's important that wherever we end up is something you're comfortable with. And each of you, you're cognizant of, okay, on the one hand, there's demands of being good steward to our system and making sure that our kids still have a working system. And at the same time, you're aware of the constraints of your neighbors and they're paying when they're trying to afford their medications and their groceries. That's a part, this is the sucky part. There's a lot of fun things about this job, but this is the hard thing. And so I think there isn't a formal process where we write up a justification, but these meetings happen in public. The public hearing will happen in public. There's an opportunity for citizens to come in and comment as well before you adopt a utility rate increase. I think this is this conversation in public. This is where you find your justification.
I'm just saying, taking a percentage of what already exists might be easier to defend than just be like,
Oh, yeah.
$3.
Yeah. Do you want me to just apply the inflation percent?
Is that the inflation percent that you would use?
Yeah.
So you're saying add the 6.3 to it instead of, or do one or the other?
Well, the 6.3 raises one by 290 and the other by 239.
Okay.
So it's still right in that.
I know, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's an easy one to explain. Is that kind of a
Yeah.
general consensus?
Yeah.
I think that's-
That's a good idea. At the end of the day, I remember shortly after becoming mayor, Hillary and I went down to Fulham. Sat in one of their council meetings where they were dire straits about water. Their system had failed. And they're buying water from Corvallis. I do not want us to be in that position at all. And what do we need to do? No matter the big owl is to get that done.
I think they had an emergency and they did
Yeah.
like a $10 or $15 rate increase.
Yep.
All at once,
Mhm.
and that was very, very hard for
Ouch.
folks.
Yeah.
It was a sporty meeting, let me
If you
tell
want
you.
to have a full room of people yelling at you, that's the way to have it happen.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, okay.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, or items, I should say, is ordinances and resolutions. Do I have council's permission to read the ordinances and resolutions by title only?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-716, a resolution of the city of Halsey updating, adopting the employee handbook for the city of Halsey and repealing all prior versions of the employee handbook.
This is on my.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a conflict of interest as my wife works for the city of Halsey, so I would have to recuse myself from.
Okay,
Okay.
any questions from council? I would entertain a motion.
I move that the city of Halsey adopt resolution 2023-716, a resolution updating and adopting the employee handbook for the city of Halsey and repealing all prior versions of the employee handbook.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is resolution 2023-717. Resolution adopting a paid leave Oregon policy for the city of Halsey.
Again, same thing for me. I'll have to fit out of this one.
Entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt resolution 2023-717, a resolution adopting a paid leave Oregon policy for the city of Halsey.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is resolution 2023-719. Resolution adopting a parks master plan for the city of Halsey. Somewhere here.
Sure, I do, and then I'll also let Julia chime in since she did the work on this. So this plan was compiled with a community survey with feedback that's been gathered over the last 10 years. of Community members asking for things related to the park. And with the Parks Committee, we had 3 citizens with a lot of parks expertise, a counselor with parks expertise, an interested citizen as well. And got a lot of ideas and feedback from them, and then went into a period where we kind of both cost checked and feasibility just checked, what are the obstacles, what are the insurance concerns, what are the risks, what's feasible in the space we have. And Julia's job was to take all of that information and put it together into a plan. And I'm actually pretty impressed. The plan is structured so that we can do it in pieces. So we're applying for an OPRD grant to do phase 1, which is the biggest bulk of the work in Memorial Park. And we've tried to put things into that will benefit everybody. So there's exercise equipment for those of us who need it. There's new playground equipment for kids. There's a new path, which is desperately needed for safety as well as better exercise surface. So we tried to lump as much as we could into that first big bite, because if we can get the OPRD grant, then we can pull the trigger and we can just do the work. If we don't get the OPRD grant, we'll apply for it again the following year, but also we can start applying piecemeal. We can apply to the Oregon Community Foundation for funds to help with the path, and we can apply to the Poor Family Foundation or Meyer Memorial Trust for funds for the playground equipment. We can start doing it a piece at a time. We can get donations and do fundraising. So either way, we can move forward on the plan, but it's just a question of how big of a bite can we take. And so one of the things that's very important to me about this plan is it includes plans to develop a park at the north end of town, which is something I've been asked for the 10 years I've been working for the city. Folks in Blue Heron have to walk, mile and a quarter, mile and a half to get to the park. Folks at the north end of town, both sides, east and west, have quite a ways to go. And again, this is a plan to support the future development of Halsey, right? We want to be a comfortable and welcoming place for families. And okay, this is a personal thing, but I really like the idea of having a park at the north end of town. So we have one at both ends of town for families. So yeah, I have to own that. That's me. Sorry, I caught myself talking on, what's what you want, Hillary? But we did get that request a lot. So, and Julia, do you have anything you want to talk about or?
Nothing except I did add in a DEI statement on page 4.
Oh, that's why you have a second copy on the desk.
Oh. Yes, so this week I added a new item. It strengthens our OPRD grant application, and I just think that it's a nice little thing to make sure we have it.
Any questions, comments?
I'm very impressed with the work that you have done here.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
We appreciate putting this all together. It was very easy to read and understand too.
Yep.
Anything else? Entertainment.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt resolution 2023-719, a resolution adopting a parks master plan for the city of Halsey.
Second.
Okay, who got there first?
Replay doesn't matter. I just choose one of them.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is ordinance 2023-443. amending City of Halsey Municipal Code, Chapter 7.05, relating to itinerant merchants and temporary businesses. For fun time, sorry.
So this is the second reading of this, and I talked about this last time, so I guess I would just say if there are any follow-up questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
I just have to say, I wasn't here last month. I think this is a great idea.
Yeah.
I guess I never thought about it, that there wasn't a list of the businesses and all compiled. So I think it's a great idea. Just throwing it out.
Anyone else? No, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt ordinance 2023-443, amending City of Halsey Municipal Code Chapter 7.05 relating to the internet.
Itinerant.
Internet, thank you, that word, merchants and temporary businesses.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, imagine that. Ordinance 2023-444, amending City of Halsey Municipal Code, Chapter 7.10, relating to business registration. Is the first reading of the ordinance.
No, it's the second. I'm sorry. Did I put first?
You did.
I'm very sorry.
But
And I would say the same. There's a summary sheet and I presented to council last month. And council didn't ask for any changes, so this is the same ordinance you saw. I'm very happy to answer any questions.
question, comments, concerns? I'm hearing none. I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt ordinance 2023-444, amending City of Halsey Municipal Code, Chapter 7.10, relating to business registration.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And with that, Kara. Dang it. Wish you weren't leaving. But I understand why. And we have card for you.
Now let's put it in. I can get it in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for.
It's been my pleasure.
There are cookies, hopefully still left.
Yeah, they did.
So with that. At 8:26.